You know, every year cybersecurity gets faster, but 2026, that feels like a different ballgame entirely. Welcome back to the deep dive.
It really does.
This week, we're unpacking the stack of sources you shared, all zeroing in on one crucial topic: the intersection of AI and, well, fundamental cybersecurity resilience.
Mm.
And this isn't just about throwing new tech at old problems. It feels like we're rewriting the whole defense playbook.
We are. And our mission today is very focused. We're extracting the practical roadmap from all this.
Okay.
We need to find those specific, actionable steps for organizations that want faster detection, safer AI integration, and this is critical, measurable risk reduction in the next couple of years.
And the urgency, I mean, it feels palpable in these materials. It's really driven by the speed of the threat actors, right?
Oh, absolutely. They're already weaponizing automation.
Oh, right.
Precisely.
Yeah.
If we look at the core data, attackers are already using AI, sophisticated automation, to probe systems, find weaknesses, and pivot faster than any human defender ever could.
They're just scanning at machine speed.
Exactly. And that creates what we call an almost impossible signal-to-noise problem for security teams.
Which is why the sources are all saying that defenders need AI not just as some new tool, but more like a cognitive amplifier.
That's the perfect term, a cognitive amplifier.
Yeah.
We need AI to spot those tiny, almost invisible, weak signals and then correlate alerts across all these different domains: identity, network, cloud,
All at once.
and then synthesize them into actual actionable intelligence. The massive opportunity here, which the sources stress over and over, is pairing that raw model capability with really disciplined controls and human oversight.
So you get the speed, but you don't accidentally, increase your own attack surface.
You got it.
Okay, so let's unpack the three major strategic shifts the industry is implementing right now. The first one is pretty obvious. Enhanced AI capabilities are directly improving mean time to detect, or MTTD.
And that's huge. In cybersecurity, time is literally money. Often it's the difference between a minor incident and a major breach.
So reducing MTTD is the number one driver here.
It has to be.
The second shift is this move toward implementing layered safeguards. We're moving beyond just relying on perimeter tools, it seems.
Yeah, the controls are now being baked directly into the AI models and the infrastructure they run on. It's a much deeper integration.
And finally, the third shift is the necessity of critical partnerships. No single organization can solve this alone.
Not a chance. This means collaboration with global security experts, really intense external red teaming, and working with standards bodies to close those gaps everywhere.
That sets the stage perfectly. So let's get into the technical side. The sources talk about this new AI cybersecurity lifecycle. It sounds like AI is moving from being, I don't know, a glorified anomaly detector to something more.
A full-fledged assistant, really. An end-to-end assistant. What's fascinating here is that the models are evolving to cover the full threat lifecycle.
It's not just one piece.
The whole thing. They're moving away from being purely reactive. It's a four-stage evolutionary shift that basically defines how an incident is handled from the very beginning to the very end.
Let's break those four stages down because they really outline the new workflow for security teams, for the SOCs. Stage one is all about getting from data to detection.
Right. This is where raw data meets advanced intelligence.
Yeah.
Models are enriching telemetry. That's the data stream coming from endpoints, identity systems, network traffic.
All the sources.
All of them. And it uses that to surface these deep correlated insights. So instead of a human analyst just drowning in alerts, they get a synthesized narrative of what the model thinks is happening.
So it's not just flagging one weird login anymore. It's linking that login to a suspicious file download and then a privilege change that happened right after.
Exactly. And the reason this is so hard for humans is just scale and complexity.
Too much data.
Way too much. A person cannot analyze billions of events across different logs fast enough to spot those subtle connections. AI can.
Which brings us to stage two, and this feels like the real game changer: prediction to prevention.
This is pattern recognition running ahead of the curve. The AI is spotting suspicious behaviors before they fully escalate into an actual attack.
And that lets you take genuinely preventive actions.
Think about it. The AI detects some unusual lateral movement inside the network. Instead of waiting for a compromise, it automatically forces multi-factor authentication MFA for that specific user.
Or it just applies new conditional access rules on the fly.
Right.
That sounds amazing, but it does raise a question for me. If you're predicting risk like that, aren't you going to get buried in false alarms? false positives.
That's the critical trade-off, and the sources emphasize it heavily. The goal isn't prevention at all costs. It's safe prevention.
Okay.
The AI models have to be tuned to minimize friction for legitimate users while still acting fast. This continuous tuning, the feedback, is what separates effective AI from just more alert spam.
Fair enough. Stage 3, response at speed, is where that tuning really matters, especially when we start talking about automation.
Absolutely. Automation can draft response playbooks, open tickets, orchestrate all the routine containment steps. But again, safety first. The source materials demand this must always be coupled with rigorous approvals and audit trails. For coordinating these workflows, some sources mention using tools, I think Asana was an example, just to manage the process and make sure a human signs off on the big stuff.
So the AI drafts the plan, but a human hits the go button.
Especially for anything destructive.
Yeah.
And that whole iterative cycle leads us to the last stage, stage 4, feedback loops.
This is how it gets smarter.
This is the fuel for continuous improvement. Every post-incident learning, every synthetic test, all the findings from red team exercises, it all gets fed back into the models. And that iterative process is what refines the model quality over time and, most importantly, keeps driving down the rate of those false positives that just burn out security teams.
Okay, so we've covered the 4 technical stages, but all that power is useless without the right governance structure. So let's pivot to the organizational framework. This is step 1, establishing layered safeguards.
This is basically the modern reboot of defense in depth. You have to create a comprehensive control stack that protects the environment, sure, but is also baked into the model itself.
Okay, so what are the key layers we need to be looking at here?
We can group them into 4 main areas. First up, you have model safeguards.
So controls inside the AI.
Exactly. Things like policy prompts to guide its output, allow and deny lists for data or actions, rate limits to stop abuse, and sensitive data filters to make sure it doesn't see things it shouldn't.
You're basically building a secure mental environment for the AI to work in.
That's a great way to put it. Then you have the operational controls. This is protecting the infrastructure it runs on.
So identity-aware access, key management, network isolation.
All the fundamentals,
Sure.
secure secret rotation, all of that.
The third layer seems to focus on validation.
Right. Evaluation and testing. This means rigorous pre-deployment testing using what they call adversarial prompts to try to trick the model.
Trying to break it.
Trying to break it. Yeah. And doing scenario-based drills and constantly checking for model drift to make sure it's still accurate and relevant over time.
And then finally, the organizational glue holding it all together, governance.
Yep. Clear ownership, comprehensive risk registers, and established rapid rollback paths in case something goes wrong.
Yeah.
And the sources insist on documenting all these guardrails and runbooks somewhere central and accessible, citing tools like Notion to keep everyone aligned and audit ready.
Okay, so step 2 is about making sure the AI isn't some isolated silo. Integration is key. It has to talk to everything else.
It has to, but the core requirement is that the AI must provide enriched, explainable context. It can't just flood analysts with more raw alerts.
That's just trading one kind of alert fatigue for another.
Exactly.
So how do we integrate it without just overwhelming the human analyst?
Well, you need strong SOC alignment. Model outputs have to feed directly into the platforms they already use, like a SIEM or an XDR system. And when you automate, you start small.
Low-risk stuff first.
You focus on low-risk automations first. Tagging, case creation, data enrichment. You only move toward partial containment, where the AI might, say, temporarily block some traffic after a human signs off, often through a workflow system like Asana.
And the engine for this entire system, I'm guessing, is quality data.
It fails immediately without quality telemetry. High-quality, well-labeled data is the engine. The sources also highlight using enterprise search tools, like Glean was one example, to quickly surface threat signals and reference prior related cases. It gives the analyst all the history they need, instantly.
Okay, let's move to that third pillar, collaboration. Step 3, partnering with global security experts. It's all about external validation.
And that external validation is just vital for finding blind spots that your internal teams might overlook. The most effective way to do this is with rigorous external red teaming.
Okay.
And crucially, this red teaming can't just target the traditional infrastructure. It has to specifically target the new AI-assisted workflows and the AI models themselves.
So we're basically paying people to try and break the AI's logic.
Precisely. You're testing the whole posture. The sources suggest using collaborative canvases, like you'd find in Miro, to visualize the findings and remediation plans with those external partners. It makes the whole process more efficient.
Hmm.
You also need to be constantly benchmarking model performance against known attack scenarios and tracking those key metrics like MTTD, MTTR, and especially false positive rates.
That transparency is huge. Now for step 4, building responsible AI security into the day-to-day. This feels like the trust and accountability piece.
It is. It's about operationalizing accountability. And the cornerstone is the human in the loop.
Always.
This requires an analyst to review any material action the AI proposes, at least until certain confidence thresholds are met. It's the ultimate guardrail against runaway automation.
But if the human is constantly overriding or reviewing the AI, doesn't that sort of negate the speed advantage?
It's a trade-off.
Yeah.
You balance the speed of automation for low-risk tasks against the mandatory diligence for high-risk actions. And this is where accountability becomes paramount. Auditability is completely non-negotiable.
You have to log everything.
Everything. The initial prompt, the AI's response, the final human decision, and, critically, any human overrides.
Why is logging the overrides so important?
Because that log supports forensic investigations and regulatory compliance. If something goes wrong, you need a clear record of why the human chose to disregard the automated suggestion. And the sources say policies for this should be stored centrally, again, in tools like Notion.
Okay.
And of course, you have to adhere to least privilege and data minimization, only giving the models the minimum data they need to do their job.
And this all requires training, doesn't it? The human element.
Absolutely. Training and culture are vital. You have to upskill the SOC team on AI-assisted triage, on creating new playbooks, and practicing good prompt hygiene, knowing how to ask the AI the right question. The sources mention tools like Miro are great for workshops and exercises to get the team aligned.
Those 4 steps give us a really complete strategy. Let's make it real now. Let's run through some of the realistic use cases the sources provided. How does this actually play out in practice?
These examples really show AI elevating routine tasks from being slow and, frankly, error-prone to being fast and reliable. First, identity anomalies.
Okay.
AI flags an unusual access path or a privilege escalation attempt. If that signal is strong enough, it automatically kicks off an approval-gated containment workflow, maybe right in a system like Asana, locking down the account until an analyst can confirm the risk.
Which cuts the dwell time dramatically, the time the attacker is inside the system.
Exactly. Second, phishing triage. Models cluster all the reported emails, they pull out the indicators of compromise, the IOCs, and they enrich the case data right in the SOM.
That must shave huge amounts of time off every investigation.
It does. And analysts can quickly reference prior related cases using enterprise search tools like Glean, which helps prevent repeat incidents.
Huge efficiency gain there. What about cloud security?
Third is cloud posture. This isn't just a manual scan anymore, it's continuous analysis. The AI is constantly monitoring the environment, suggesting least privilege adjustments, and highlighting misconfigurations before they can be exploited. And teams can then visualize and storyboard the fixes, maybe in a collaborative space like Miro, before they actually deploy them.
And finally, managing external risk, which is just a growing nightmare for everyone.
Yes, third-party risk. So instead of your security teams manually reading through hundreds of pages of vendor security documents, text models can summarize that documentation and map it directly against your internal policy requirements.
Wow.
All that critical summary info is then centralized in a tool like Notion, providing instant risk insight.
These use cases really do prove that a safe, fast deployment is achievable. But, like you said earlier, leadership needs to see results. Which brings us to step 5, measuring what matters. What KPIs should leaders be focused on?
We need to define KPIs across 3 key categories. First is risk reduction. This is all about outcomes. Incidents prevented, severity reduction over time, positive trends in dwell time. Are we getting the attacker out faster? The second category is efficiency. This measures analyst time saved, how many cases are handled per shift, and the adoption rates of the automation itself.
So measuring the return on the AI investment in terms of pure productivity.
Exactly. And the third category focuses on the performance of the AI itself, the quality bucket. Here we track precision and recall for detections, and critically we manage the ratios of false positives versus false negatives. And you need a disciplined way to track all the remediation tasks based on these metrics, often using tools like Asana to make sure that feedback loop is fully closed and totally audit ready.
That was an incredibly comprehensive blueprint. You have the 4 life cycle stages, the 4 practical implementation steps, and then that 5th step for measurement.
The central message for you is really clear. AI is strengthening cyber resilience, But it's not magic. It comes through a balanced approach.
Hmm.
It's about leveraging these powerful models alongside disciplined operations, multi-layered safeguards, and mandatory expert collaboration.
Right.
The fastest path to reduced risk and a faster response by 2026 is pairing that tech power with robust human oversight and rigorous accountability.
And that human oversight brings us to our final, and I think slightly provocative, thought for you to consider. We spent a lot of time talking about logging everything prompts, AI responses, human decisions, and overrides for forensics and compliance.
Hmm.
This means the future of security audit trails isn't just about what the user did during an incident, it's about what the AI suggested. And, maybe most importantly, why the human security professional chose to override that suggestion.
Ah.
That fundamentally changes the nature of accountability within the SOC. It makes the human decision arguably the most critical and scrutinized piece of the whole automated process. Think about that next time you're reviewing an AI-generated containment plan.